Hello, and welcome to a special episode of the Rangers Rabble today. We're going to be interviewing former Rangers youth, our first team player as well for a few games, Jimmy Gibson. Jimmy, how are you?
Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's nice to be on.
Yeah, really good to have you. So really appreciate you doing this. Sorry about the intro, by the way, because that's a very temporary music thing we got, which is at the moment just like cutting the viewership in half pretty much because they don't like it. But we yeah, the long term intro tune has had a bit of a copyright strike on it randomly, so got a temporary one at the moment. But yeah, so we're just going to crack into some questions and hopefully it'll be a really good chat. So I mean, just the first sort of thing I wanted to get at, obviously, you know, you've come to be a youth player at Rangers and during a time when there's some real high quality players. So before you get to Rangers, are you just like much better than everyone else at your age group? Do you realise, because what a few people I know that have gone on, they've always just been head and shoulders above everyone else about them.
Yeah, to be honest, I've never been a person that's kind of, we say, blows on trumpet. I've never been that type of person, but kind of, I started kind of playing boys club when I was 7, so it was all different back then. What it is, I think it's Fab Fours or Fun Fours, and it goes up to, I don't know what it is now. So, but back then it was straight into 11-a-sides. So my boys club was from 7-year-old was Mill United, and yeah, I played a year above me until I had to drop down through the age. So, but when I joined kind of Rangers training when I was 11, so as I say, boyhood club, they come in for you and you're thinking like, that's it. It's the only place you want to be, and it used to be like a Monday or Wednesday or Tuesday, Thursday training at Ibrox. You would get changed in what was it? It was like a kind of a big room, but when obviously we went in full time, the room was actually a kind of, I'll say hospitality, but it wasn't. It was just a big room. You get in there, all the parents would be in there. You get changed, and you get out and train in the AstroTurf across the road, and that was it for since I was 11 until 4 years or so. But when I went full time at 15, which was in 1996. But I was the only one from my age group that went full time. But I knew kind of back then. I'd already played with the Scotland schoolboys, live in the Sky against your Michael Owen era and stuff, and that was. I mean, I scored a hat trick live in Sky, and it's
is that the Victory Shield? Is that or
yes, yeah, that's what it was. And the Victory Shield, yeah. So, but at the time, you didn't. Listen, I knew I was a good player, and when I look back now, and you hear coaches saying this to you at the time and blah blah blah, but I mean, everybody wanted me. I was probably, and I don't like saying it, but at my age group, my position best in Scotland.
Wow.
Then, as I said, I mean that continued for a good while. But I mean, all the down south, the clubs are coming in for you, but you've only got one place to go, and it was definitely Rangers.
Yeah, that's exactly what we like to see. I mean, to be honest, you covered a few. I wanted to look at a bit of Mill United. I had a little look around because they've produced a few players have come through sort of Mill United. When I was looking, I mean, the only thing they have of Jimmy Gibson joining Rangers, they actually say it's at 1996 as a 16-year-old, but obviously it's not. You were far before that. But so at that time, what's the coaching like? Was it John McGregor, the coach, around that time?
Yep. So when I was 15 when I joined, but I turned 16 in February. So when I went in, it was honestly it's unbelievably daunting. It really is. Again, at the time you don't realise it as much, but when you look back, well, I can remember it was Maurice Ross was on a kind of similar podcast, and he was saying it. He come through. He's like, could not believe how scary a place it was and how because it's like it's killed be killed. That's how bad it is. It's not like you're joining a lovely place and everybody's welcome. Nowhere near that. And the coaches was Bomber and Joe McGregor, but Bomber was still playing at the time.
Right. Yeah.
He was doing the coaching and like in emergencies, and he was still playing first team. But they were the two coaches. And obviously John Chalmers. He obviously passed away, so he was kind of the youth coach. That's he was in every day as well. But Bomber and John McGregor were the coaches, and it was coaching style, old school. That's the only way I can describe it. I loved John McGregor, absolutely loved him. Bomber, loved Bomber as well, but he was very, very tough.
Yeah,
very tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you see that on the pitch, so you can absolutely imagine what that's like the other side. Just around that time, then, I mean, in the sort of 96, 97, I mean, the legends around the club sort of, we've got the likes of Gorham, McCoist, Gazza, Laudrup, all in this time period. Did you get to see much of them at that time, or are you not too involved in that side?
No, well, that's the difference from where the club and that is now until back then. We were all in Ibrox. So we would be, when I first went, you were changed, so you were changed in the ball boys room, which was a tiny wee room with all the youth players getting changed in there. The reserves were the away dressing room, and obviously the first team were in the home dressing room. But for your first 2 years, you've got jobs. So my first year was with Big Oleg, Barry Robson, absolute moon man. So, and it was, we were in charge of the balls and the bibs, cones, etc. And the balls had to be a certain pressure. Everything had to be spotless. And you know what? It's great. I think that's what's missing now, because it gives you a sense of responsibility, your discipline. You could see if there was a ball that was whatever outside Archie would go absolutely crazy.
Really?
So we were always in there, and you would get into the first team dressing room, and you would sit and listen to stories, but they would involve you with different things.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, it's brilliant. They never ever made you feel as if what you're doing here. And they obviously hear bits and pieces. So if you're doing well and they hear it, you're no longer coming back down, because they're like Durante, Cloyston, the goalie, and that, the Fergie, Ian Ferguson, they would you were no chance of getting too big. They'd cut you in pieces.
Yeah, I bet, because there's so many characters in that dressing room at the time as well. Did you get like just from sort of the ex-players I've listened to that go through the sort of apprenticeship, if you will, did you get like a few quid chucked you away from the first team at like sort of Christmas time and that?
My first year Christmas, I think I got about 500 quid. My second year, I had the boots, first team boots from number 1 to 18, and I think it was just over £1,000 at Christmas. It was quite good, because a lot of Scottish boys between 1 and 18, so they sorted. But at the same time, it was a bit unfair, because the boot boys, the boot boys and the kit lads, they used to always get a wee bonus at Christmas, but the other guys never really got much. So it was a bit unfair. And you think back now, you're like, you should probably maybe get into a kitty and kind of split a bit. There's guys in there that's maybe cleaning the away dressing room, that's their job and stuff, and doing the reserve kit. They were getting nothing. So it was a bit unfair. But at the time, you're thinking, well, the guys were always, the first team were always, there was a few that was miserable, but the guys always looked after you, and they used to do like on a Saturday. So we would always, if we were at home, there'd be 3 or 4 apprentices on duty, they called it. 2 would be obviously tidying up the first team dressing room, helping me Jimmy with the kit, etc. And the other 2 would be doing the away dressing room. So you've been, obviously kick-off's 3 o'clock, you've been 12 o'clock. And at the time, it was coupons galore. So you need to go to the bookies. I mean, the bookies let you in. You were probably 16, 17 at the time.
Yeah.
Bookies let you in. You get the Coopmans, bring them back over, and that'd be aimed would work. But it was like there was good money obviously getting put on them, but at the same time, you would get like I'll just say £200 worth of your Coopham, right? They give you 250, keep the 50. So all stuff like that was just brilliant because they know obviously the young boys. I mean, you're apprentice, and they were also giving you a wee kind of backhander here and there. So they were really Gazza. One of the stories I tell Gazza is needed toothpaste. So there's obviously where the Ibrox subway. There's obviously a line of shops and that there. So need toothpaste. Go and get me toothpaste. Right, okay. £50 note. You're away over into a wee shop, chemist, whatever. Toothpaste, like 99 pence. So you get £49 change. He's like, no, don't want it. Thanks for going. Do you know what I mean? So things like that were just at the time. Obviously, you're a young boy, and you're thinking that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, £49 for going and getting £1, 99 pence toothpaste. But that's the way he was. I've never met a more generous guy than Paul. Yeah, unbelievable. Heart of gold. He would get some of the boys that were older, never had a car, like take a car for the weekend, take this, do that. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So it's amazing to hear that it's so inclusive as well, because you do hear dressing rooms that maybe aren't like that. That they help some of the young boys out, but it's nothing really like that. Not to the generosity of that. I just wanted to look at there was an old picture come through, sort of 97, 98 of the reserve team at the time, which you were part of, and it's a really decent team, to be fair. I mean, I won't go through all of them, but you've got your keeper Mark Brown, who's obviously gone on and had a decent career. Obviously not mention where he's went, but he had a decent career. Bob Malcolm, Peter McDonald, Mo Ross, like you said, yourself. Who else? We've got Barry Nicholson, Scott Wilson, all had these careers, and then of course you've got sort of Barry Ferguson. Barry Ferguson, is he, in terms of, are you the same sort of age? Because this is like, I mean, looking through some of these players, it feels like it could have been a class of 92 situation coming through at one point.
I think anywhere else bar Rangers and the pressure of your 9 in a row, etc. 90% of those players, if it's all about timing, I say you need a bit of luck, regardless how good you are, you need luck. If that group of players came through when the trouble started there, and that they would have won. They would have, honestly, the teams that we ended up playing in the 3rd division, 2nd division, obviously we get demoted and stuff, they were the teams we used to play in pre-season to get our fitness up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that. So Fergie was 2 years older than me, but as you, Fergie was, listen, he was different class. He really was. But I mean, Fergie had his problems. He wanted to leave.
Oh, really?
Because he was ready to play first team football, but the gaffer at the time, Walter, they held him back. But I think it was probably for his own good, because of the pressure on the 9 in a row was unreal. So they held him back. But Fergie being Fergie, wasn't happy with that, and he was threatening to go and stuff. Could he have played? Yeah. I mean, I think he played the last game of the season against Hearts away and ended up, he was absolutely brilliant, got man of the match. Then I think the next year, obviously, Dick came in and built a team around him. But those players were, at the time, back then, you walk into any first team out with Rangers. Yeah. Out with Rangers and Celtic. If you're looking at the current first team now, and those players that you've mentioned, maybe in the early 20s, most of them play. If I'm being honest, that's how good the squad that they had.
Yeah. I mean, it's just to be honest, I didn't. I mean, in 1998, obviously Advocaat comes in. did Advocaat get involved too much in it? Because we've already seen at this point sort of you've got. I've looked back at the stats. We've got Lee Feeney, David Graham, Nixon, and obviously Barry Ferguson have gone on to make first team appearances. Are they for you boys behind them? Are they the inspirations that this is going to happen, or did anything change when Advocaat come in?
I think he never really get involved. To be honest, it was always bomb on John McGregor, but. If he was looking for, he came in and took Fergie right away. Fergie got promoted right into first team. Barry Nick ended up going there. David Graham went in there, who was extremely lucky, to be honest. I think he liked David had pace and stuff like that, but I think he was extreme. I think there was better players there at the time. Fino, he obviously signed, I think it was $1 million from Winfield, I think it was. Maniac, absolute.
Was he really?
Just an absolute nutcase. Typical Belfast boy, just mad. But Fino come over and he trained with us now went into the first team. So, but we always knew that it was always going to be hard. I mean, you look at the players he came over, and you look at the players he brought in. At the time. It's going to be very, very difficult. If you get, you're one or two, then especially with Arm, bang right in the middle. I mean, you're looking at the players there. Barry Nick was in the middle, but he moved. Bob and John had moved him out to the right, a midfield. So that worked for him going forward because he made a career out of playing there. And the first team at the time, the strongest point I would say is bang right in the middle. So there was a kind of a gap there for somebody to play maybe in the right hand side now and again. And at the time, you needed, I think it was the 2 under-21s on the bench as well. So there was always a chance of maybe if you're on the bench getting on. But I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful that he did give me my debut, but I found him. Listen, the Dutch are very, very arrogant at the best of time, right?
Yeah.
Some of them, like Ronnie De Boer, that he can be arrogant, but he was. What I will say is there was not one of them that was bad with it. They were arrogant, but they were great lads. But for me, I mean, there was a power trip there, and I didn't really like him. I'll be honest. I mean, it was like a dictatorship. Do not eat your lunch until I start eating my lunch. And that's a bit, I mean, it's not primary school, and they would sit. So they brought over Bert was obviously his assistant. He brought over a youth coach in Jan Dirks, who he wasn't any better than what we had, or for me, never improved anything. He brought over the big Dutch Doc, who was, again, we had a great Doc McGuinness, and they kind of get pushed out, and we Hendo was a physio from Blantyre. So at the dinner table, all Dutch and we Hendo, and maybe Doc McGuinness at the time, they would just sit and speak Dutch.
Really?
I mean, so you get, if we Hendo's here, you're kind of sitting like, it's terrible. I found them very ignorant, to be honest. But listen, I don't think Fergie will speak higher enough for him, but for me, I don't know. I didn't like that kind of ignorance. As a coach and a manager, I think he was absolutely brilliant for what he done, and tactically and that. Listen, I don't think people can speak high enough of him, but as a person, not for me.
Wow. I mean, it's really interesting to hear, because I imagine it was a big culture change as well, of obviously the big Dutch import that we had around then. I mean, for fans, it's obviously fantastic because we're seeing these amazing players come and join the club, but you don't really think about that other side of it. Did it ever feel like? To
be honest, they were brilliant. Honestly, the players were absolutely brilliant. Big Bert, he was here a month and had a Scottish accent. Arthur Newman, one of the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Ronnie, as I say, unbelievably arrogant, but he could be. Look what he done in the game.
Oh, yeah.
He could be anything. Mikey Moles, I mean, he would have been absolutely top drawer if that never happened to him. It came to the point, I mean, he ended up starting to to kind of play with us at the end. That's
really?
kind of, it was a sin seeing him, because he could have been special. He was. I mean, he came and he was bamboozling people. And I think he was bamboozling himself with that turn. Sometimes I know what he was doing. But I absolutely could not speak high enough for the guys. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I recently went on to another Rangers podcast. Just sort of one of the guys that he's doing a piece on there, like greatest Rangers 11s and stuff. And I put Moles in mine, like just from like your own experience, Rangers 11s, I think. And that Moles was in mine because he was just. I even said like that turn he used to do. I swear he used to look. He'd get bundled with players, and he would just pop out the other side with the ball, and he was unbelievable.
But the thing about it as well, I think most defenders and fans knew he was going to do it, but it was like lean to the outside and take it, and that was him. He was gone. But as I say, obviously, if you rate him that highly as well, that killed him, didn't it? He was never the same. I think suffering the knee injury, I think a lot of his turn was a lot of pressure on the knee to go the other way. I think it must have been the back of his mind. So, but yeah, it wasn't nice to see. But yeah, quality player and a quality guy. But I'm just saying what happened to him.
Yes, and it was annoying for me as well because we were battering Bayern in that game as well. So it's even more frustrating that we went out.
Definitely.
Did it feel like the gateway closed off at that point for the first team, for any of the youth players, or did nothing much changed in terms of the chances?
I'll be honest. I've always been honest with it. For me, I was only. I don't think he rated me that highly. If I'm being honest, okay. There was players I seen kind of getting to train with the first team and like maybe in there or thereabouts. I was never felt like that personally. It was always, I would always have John McGregor and Blommer pushing me, but it never seemed to happen, to be honest. And I knew myself that I was never going to be a regular starter there because no through ability or that. He obviously had he had your Fergie, two guys, Big George, Gio, Claudio, other players there that they're always going to start before me. Yeah. And so you know that. So you can't. I mean, he promoted Big Bob, which he should have done, to be fair, because he was too good for the reserves, like most of us. But he found a space for Bob. Mo ended up getting promoted, and Mo, tell yourself, fair play to him, Mo worked his ass off to get there, because ability wise, I mean, he could obviously take his touch and pass, etc. But Mo got himself as fit as he possibly can, and he worked very, very hard for it, and fair play to him. He'll tell you that himself. And listen, had a very good career and a successful career at Rangers by doing that. But there was a few kind of wee snippets of other players. A wee Stevie Hughes got there. He liked Stevie Hughes. But any of the ones promoted, in my opinion, they never had anything more. Different, obviously, positions with Bob and Mo and that, but if anyone coming through I don't think they were obviously better than myself, but I knew it was never going to be a sustained kind of period where that I was always kind of hanging about there. That was never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and just moving on from that then, I mean, under Advocaat, you go on to make your debut. Is this Kilmarnock 2-0 win, right, the debut? I was just looking, obviously, you make another appearance under Advocaat as well, which I have as a League Cup win over Airdrie.
Yeah.
But just looking at the sort of teams that you actually play, you're on the pitch being with, I mean, I just wrote down a few of the names like Kloss, Amo, De Boer, Kanchelskis, Latapi, Moles, Arveladze, Kanigia, Newman. I mean, they're absolute superstars, right? Are you thinking at this point, even if it doesn't work out here, the career's going to go somewhere pretty big after this if I'm mixing it with the big boys?
Yeah, at the time you don't think about that. You just see them as the same as yourself, they're players, right?
Yeah.
That's it. But you do think that you've had a snippet of like kind of an appearance. Hopefully you can push on and start to get more games. But as you say, if you don't, then you're thinking, obviously, listen, I'll go on to another team. It's obviously not going to be as big as Rangers, but you can still make a kind of decent enough career out it. But I mean, I mean, listen, I mean, done not too bad, but I never, and I'm honest with this as well, and I've said it before, I never lived my life right. I had a lot of problems with my pelvis since I was 15, over 20 jags, 5 operations, but I never ever gave myself the best chance of overcoming that because I lived in that kind of bubble that drinking and gambling you thought was right. And I never ever gave myself the best chance to either chap the door with the first team or go and stay in the Premier League because I was I loved training, hated running, hated it, but I never got myself. If I had Mo's attitude towards his fitness side of it, I would have been retired somewhere and now been a millionaire. And I'm not and you know what? That's because ability wise, when I felt fit, regardless of who I played against, I just felt there was never anybody going to be anywhere near me. And that sounds like big-headed, but that's actually when I felt fit. But that was a very, very rare occasion, if I'm being honest with you. But I mean, at the time there was when Fergie came through. Let me think. Because at the start when I started, Fergie used to pick me up. He was Bellshill and I was Hamilton. Fergie had picked me up for the first few months or so, but so he's coming through a 2 year or a year and a half older than me, but he's coming through as a midfielder. I'm coming through as a midfielder. There's people talk about Fergie. There's people talk about me. He's obviously sees that as a kind of you're my direct opponent kind of thing.
Right,
so
like a threat.
And so at that time, I can always remember John McGregor and Bomber in my ear saying Fergie's this and that, you need to do this, he's better than you at this, and to a certain degree probably maybe Fergie as well, but I said on the day Fergie was at that time far more advanced than what I learned a lot off Fergie. I never seen him as a challenge to that position. Fergie was always going to go and have that, but the difference, Fergie had an unbelievable arrogance about himself. I never quite had that, to be fair. I was quite shy in coming forward and saying, yeah, I'm the best here. And that always comes back to if I never felt really fit, the doubts in your head about, is your groin going to go? Is this going to go? It plays up. But at the time, Fergie was top draw.
Yeah, it's interesting just to hear you say about obviously the gambling and because it was the culture back then, wasn't it? I think, and I think plenty of very, very talented young players have probably lost a career to it. And it's such a shame because obviously you've got Barry Ferguson has come through a couple of years ahead of you, and it's you could have had this Ferguson Gibson partnership for years to come. But just on the debut itself, are you told like ahead of time that there's a chance you're coming on there, or is it was just you're on the bench and it's just one of those moments?
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. It's myself and Bob. Bob is a year younger than me, I think. Yeah, so we'd obviously kind of been close. I was only wanting to go full time for my year. Then the next year would have been, I think it would have been Bob and wee Pizzo and Mo and stuff like that, I think. So you're always kind of growing up youth team reserves. So the two of us made, Bob actually started the game. So we drove in together on the bus. I remember Ian Ferguson We'd played it was pre-season, we'd played Stirling away. And obviously the two of us were sitting together and he's like, look at the two, you think you're coasting Johnny and stuff like that. But, so it was actually great that obviously Bob started the game. And I obviously come on. I actually think I was coming on 5 minutes to go, but the ball never went out for about 3 minutes. So I get 2 minutes, but there was no inclining. Again, this is what I say. It would be, if you're around about the first team, you're up taking their pace of training. You get to know their players. It was never a case for me. It was the squad would go up. Oh, listen, John McGregor, listen, you're in the squad, all right, and you're going hoping that you maybe get on. But it was never the case for me that I was a sustained training with the first team where you got up to that speed. You were stuck in a rotted in the reserves. It was terrible. I stayed way much longer than I should have, just through in a comfort zone. So, but there was nothing. Never once can I pulled aside and says, "Listen, I'm going to play tomorrow. You're going to come on tomorrow." Nothing. For me, anyway.
That's really interesting because my just like Gavin, like looking up at your career and stuff. I thought when you made this day, I thought you had already been in the first, like training wise, you had been in around the first team. Because I mean, nowadays you get like the boys are plucked from the youth and they start training around the first team consistently before they're even thought about making an appearance. So it's really interesting that you're actually in the reserve team at this stage and you're just plucked for the bench almost.
Yeah, honestly, that was, as I said, when we moved to, where would we have been there? And was it Ibrox? Well, it would have been, we're still at Ibrox training and stuff. So we would be in the away dressing room. But the training wise, Bob would have probably maybe been running about that time with the first team. And like obviously Barry Nix and stuff. But I wasn't. And I'll be honest, it was never. I mean, I think the most that sustained training would have been a week, maybe, with the first team. And that wasn't, I guarantee you, that wasn't down to good performances. I was training with the first team because they were short of numbers. So I knew that myself. I knew the fact, I knew he didn't fancy me, but I think he had to be seen doing something because Bomber and John were pushing me. Because I doubt, go back to when I joined the youth team was like Fergie, who else would have been above Fergie that you would know? I can't remember. So these were all they were all good players. So I was playing at that at 15. So the time when other people I had outgrown the youth team, but I was 16 and a half, 17. Then at 16 you're playing reserves. We played a Glasgow Cup final at Partick. We won 1-0. I was 16 and get sent off. So I had outgrown all that. So when I hit 18, I should have been then playing first team football. I'm not saying that's with Rangers, but I was at the stage where that's where I should have went. I never went, and my career after that, I made a few appearances. I've always got that to fall back, and it's an absolute unbelievable experience to do that. But my career hit that when I was 18 because I had been there for 15. Since I've been 15, I was ready to then start playing first team when I was 18.
During that period, because obviously now the loan system is used heavily for youth players. Was that not really a thing? Because I know that the odd loan you see, but was it not really used for development that much back then?
No. John McGregor tried to push me because he obviously, I mean, John had a good career. He was down at Liverpool and Rangers, but again, terrible knee injury. So I think he retired early, and he was a midfielder. So he kind of knew that. He was always trying to push me out in loan. But the only time I came close to it was St Mirren, who were in the Premier League. I can't even remember if they were in the Premier League, but he's like, listen, you need to go. You're wasting your time here. You need to get out and play games, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to go. They tried to send me to Australia. I don't know if you remember the setup.
The Northern,
Northern Spirit, I think it was.
Yeah, that's it.
But I had been 17 at the time, and I had just bought a house, and I'm like, no, so I just moved into a house. I'm not going there for a year, and I was kind of homeboy, and I'm like, not a chance for me. So there was a few things that, look back now, I probably should have done. The St Mirren loan should have been done. That should have been 1,000,000%. Listen, you're going there, whether you like it or not, you're going, end of. Instead of that, you were playing the Monday night at Dumbarton against guys who had fell out with their gaffers that were playing reserve football. That was, honestly, it was, you look back to me, it was horrendous. Monday night at Dumbarton, freezing, nobody interested, 3 men and a dog, horrendous. And by the way, and see that time as well, we've got Mikey Moses playing with us, Wee Russell's playing with us, you've got Big George sometimes, feed fell out. This is who we were getting on Monday night.
Really?
And regardless of how much a professional you are, if you're coming back from fitness, the gaffer's like, right, listen, go and get 60 minutes under your belt, play a game, that's you, you're back in. These guys had fell out, they were nowhere near the first team. Marco Negri. Marco get packed into the wee dressing room with us. Honestly, absolute legend, because he's the only person that was behind me at running. I absolutely loved it. It was, we used to do this thing at Christmas. Horrible. So it was run the track, run the pitch, or run the blue track, right? Now, again, all short, sharp stuff, brilliant at long distance, horrendous, right? So you had to do a minimum of 8 laps in 12 minutes round Ibrox. That still makes me feel. I used to run thinking, right, so I used to have like a big box with sand in case somebody threw flares and stuff, and they put this. I used to spend the full 8 laps thinking, what one can I trip over? What one am I diving out? And that was, honestly, it was a horrendous run, but you just look back and you see Marco, and it'd be like, just jogging with his lock, bouncing away, no interest. And it was again, he's another one that what a start he had, scary. But again, ended up with us in the wee dressing room. But he was a funny guy.
Yeah, he's super interesting. There was I think someone brought up a stat recently that they're talking about Erling Haaland's start at Man City and the goals he's on for, and they were like, he was behind what Marco Negri did that season.
Yeah, I've seen that. Scary, isn't it?
Scary stat. Yeah. So just moving on to that, the following season you don't make any first team appearances. Are you getting flare-ups of the injury problems at this point, or is this a constant thing that you're managing?
No, I can remember it. So I would have been 19 maybe then, and I can obviously remember it was just I had a hernia operation then. I was going down for an operation to Bradford to get so my tendon in my groin, my doctor had came away from the bone, so that had to be reattached. And I was going down on the Monday. No, I tell you, I was going down on the Thursday to get it done. Played Aberdeen on the Wednesday and snapped my ligaments in my ankle. So I went down to get that operation, and I come back, and I had this operation was horrendous. It really was, and I had this thing around my. I'm trying to board a plane. It was like a big nappy I had on because my 2 groins get done, and it was a big massive nappy. I had a moon boot on because I had snapped the ligaments. And I thought, you know what, this is just this sums up the full year. So I don't think I played much football, I'll be honest, that full year. And if I did, I was never fit.
Yeah, and then obviously the following year, 01-02, which this is where I sort of first heard the name Jimmy Gibson, to be honest, because I'm playing Championship Manager, and Jimmy Gibson's one of the stars of the reserve team that you get up into your first team, and then you develop at Niles Sport. Telling all my mates, Jimmy Gibson, he's the next one. You wait. But you make another appearance under Advocaat in 01-02. He then leaves, and McLeish comes in. Do you speak to McLeish when he comes in? Is it a fresh start? Is it a different focus from him?
Well, the funny thing was, we played Hibs when I was at Hibs. We played Hibs in the reserve game, and again I must have felt fit, but I can remember I controlled the game. It was a stroll through the game, and he was looking to take me to Hibs.
Okay.
So when he came into Rangers, you're thinking, right, great, it's a new start. It's a new start. But again, instead of me pushing on, I just went through the motions until maybe I think I was in the European squad for, is it Victoria Shishkov or something they were called? They beat us 2-0 over there in Czech Republic. Victoria, I think it was Victoria something anyway. So I was near the squad then and what I was with Advocaat, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me a few times. He's like, listen, keep doing what you're doing. Keep running games, blah, blah, blah. And you will be, you'll get your rewards, etc. But again, in Fergie, the same problem at that time, my groins went again. Went again. Oh, that was the full story of Rangers. I'll be honest with you. Full story was stop, start. You get somewhere, something happened. But yeah, he spoke to me. I liked him. He had not every player liked him, for being honest with you.
Okay.
A few things to say, but I liked him. I think I found him honest enough with me, and if I did do well, I was round the squad. And again, typical was, you're probably going to touch it right enough, but when I come on against Hearts, this sums up. I think the whole Rangers thing for me was cost. It's got to be I come on against Hearts. I was flying in the reserves. I got myself again fit. Around about the kind of summeries time, April, May, whatever it was, and I was flying. Came on against Hearts. Put the ball around the corner and went over my ankle. So I come on as a sub. I come on as a sub and had to go back off. That just summed everything up.
Yeah.
And the best of it, the last few games, I think we'd already won the league. The last few games, the gaffer at the time played a few of the young boys. The last few games, Big Andy Dowie, I think played. Wee Burkey played. So again, that would have been me playing for the start.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So it's just. That's what I said at the start of the show. You need to have, regardless of how good you are, you need to have luck in your side. And that whole time there was just a curse. But no, going back to him, I liked him. To say, obviously, he gave you that wee bit of, it gave me that bit of confidence because I knew he liked me. I knew he was looking to sign me for Hibs. He came to Rangers. Fair enough, he's dealing with a different calibre of player at Rangers than what he is Hibs, but you still knew that he liked you, and he did give a few of the young boys a chance as well. So I liked him, to be fair. And his assistant Andy Watson again. At that time, I think you had Alec, Andy Watson, wee Hendo the physio. You had the big Doc McGuinness, and it was like a family there because they were all so close. There was a great bunch, and think of the players Celtic had back in as well. So they'd done. I mean, he came in. I think did he win his treble in his first full season? I think.
Yeah, it might have been the first full season. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Celtic had a right good squad, so he done great. But I think it was because they had a right good kind of togetherness. There was no like you eat when I eat. There was no mobile phones banned. I know this sounds petty, but you're an adult.
Yeah.
Do not be seen in your phone. I mean, but yeah, I'm getting on there. But anyway, no, I liked him. It was good. So that was it.
No, that's fine. I mean, he's obviously doing it on a bit of a budget as well by the time McLeish comes in. At this point, are you obviously you've got the injury problems. Are you in and around the first team at this point? Are the nights out with the first team still? Has it changed much from the Gazza days since the Dutch boys come in, or are people still going out together?
No. It was the boys enjoyed the night out. You had I don't want to say too much, but they'd done it at the right times. You had Muskie was over there, obviously Muscat, maniac, but great guy, honestly. Jamie, a guy. You'd obviously Big Oz, Fergie, Bob. Listen, Arthur Newman was always the same. They were always out. You'd wee Neely. You had a good Kenny Miller. You had was Kenny at the time? I can't remember. You had a good bunch, but listen, they'd done it at the right times, and obviously Mo and Oz and Fergie talk about their shandy club at pre-season. Going to the Cricklewood, I think, for a shandy after every training session at pre-season. But no, the nights were still happening. But I mean, a lot of people, it would be a Tuesday night. You would always train on Monday, Tuesday. No midweek game, Monday, Tuesday, off a Wednesday. Training Thursday, Friday, obviously playing the Saturday. But so if you were out, it would be a Tuesday. Obviously recover Wednesday. I don't think it's as much. It happens as much now, to be honest. But
yeah,
you would go out and you would bump into all the players. See, for every club, it would all be the same.
Okay, yeah.
So it wasn't as if it was just like the guys that you bump into Celtic players, Hearts, Aberdeen players. The Tuesday night was kind of student / footballer night out, to be honest. But no, listen, the guys socialised, done it at the right times, and listen, it worked for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too. I've heard obviously before that players, you don't think about it as a fan, that players obviously bump into each other a night out, and they're probably on friendly basis, and they talk. Obviously on the pitch they're complete rivals, but I think us fans are like, we'd expect you to slide challenge in a club and stuff like that, because we don't see that side of it.
Why are you talking?
Yeah.
I hate him. Why are you talking to him?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't see it, but obviously, it's a different life off the pitch, isn't it?